Imagine you walk into a factory and watch your dream Corvette go from a bare aluminum skeleton to a 495 horsepower missile that rolls off the line with your name on the window sticker. Today, we're going inside the one place on Earth where that happens, Bowling Green Assembly, the legendary home of the Chevrolet Corvette. Welcome to Bowling Green, home of the Corvette. If you love Corvettes, there's a very good chance the car you're obsessed with was born at one exact address, 600 Corvette Drive, Bowling Green, Kentucky. This is not just another GM factory. It's the only place in the world where Corvettes have been built since 1981. Before Bowling Green, early Corvettes were hand-built in Flint, Michigan, and then mass-produced in St. Louis, Missouri. By the late 1970s, the St. Louis plant was cramped, outdated, and struggling with quality control, so GM made a massive bet on the Corvette's future. They took an old Chrysler air conditioning plant in Bowling Green and completely gutted and rebuilt it into a modern Corvette-only facility about twice the size of the previous structure. On June 1st, 1981, the first Bowling Green-built Corvette rolled off the line, marking the beginning of what would become the car's permanent home. Since then, this plant has cranked out generation after generation of America's sports car, and by around 2023, it had produced roughly 1.1 million Corvettes in total. Here's the wild part. On a good day, this single facility can turn out about 200 Corvettes, and each one takes about a day and a half, 3 full shifts, to go from raw components to a complete running car. So when you see a brand new C8 on the road, you're looking at the result of a 36-hour ballet that happened inside this one plant in Kentucky. A factory built around a supercar, Bowling Green isn't a generic line where a bunch of different Chevys happen to pass through. This building is tailored almost entirely around one mission: build Corvettes and build them right. The plant covers around 1 million square feet and employs about 1,100 people, with around 800 production workers represented by UAW Local 2164. The layout is basically a big loop of specialized zones: body shop, paint shop, trim, chassis, marriage, final assembly, and inspection. Each area is tuned to the challenges of a high-performance sports car: thin body panels, tight tolerances, powerful drivetrains, and customers who will absolutely notice if a stitch is crooked. Bowling Green has evolved dramatically with each Corvette generation. For the 5th generation in the late 1990s, the plant was gutted and retooled to modernize the entire manufacturing system. The biggest transformation came decades later when Chevrolet launched the C8, the first production mid-engine Corvette, in 2020. To handle the new layout, GM poured money into advanced robotics, new tooling, and training so workers could adapt to the completely different architecture and build process. That's the kind of commitment you need when your workplace is the birthplace of a $70,000 plus American icon that people will cherish, track, and show off for decades. Step 1. The aluminum skeleton. Let's follow a single Corvette from the moment it starts to exist. It all begins in the body shop, where the aluminum chassis, what Corvette engineers call the substructure, comes together. A lot of the parts arrive as pre-made sub-assemblies, but Bowling Green is where they're welded into a single, ultra-rigid structure that everything else will bolt onto. Robots handle much of the welding. You'll see sparks flying as robotic arms dance around the frame, laying perfectly consistent welds that a human simply couldn't repeat hundreds of times a day with that kind of precision. The goal is simple: build a structure stiff enough to handle huge cornering loads, violent launches, and thousands of miles of hard driving without squeaks or rattles. Once the frame is complete, it moves along the line with ID tags that tell every station exactly what this specific car is supposed to become: Stingray, Z06, E-Ray, which side the steering wheel goes on, even options like MagRide or Z51 braking. From this point on, that Corvette has a story the plant reads and follows at every step. Step 2. Body panels in the body in white. Next up, turning that bare skeleton into something that actually looks like a car. On the body subline, workers and machines install mounting points and structures that will eventually hold the exterior panels. Corvette body panels are typically composite pieces, lightweight, corrosion-resistant, and forgiving in low-speed impacts, which is part of why the car can stay relatively light while still offering a wide body and dramatic curves. The plant builds up what's called the body in white, a mostly complete structural shell before paint. Instead of painting the entire body as one giant assembly, Bowling Green does something a little different. All the individual body panels are placed on a buck and painted separately. That might sound like extra work, but it has two huge advantages. First, it makes it easier to install components behind those panels without risking damage to a pristine exterior finish. Second, it helps maintain consistent, high-quality paint coverage on each panel's edges and contours. By the time the body in white leaves this area, the car's shape and stance are already clear. You can tell if it's a wide-body Z06 or a more streamlined Stingray just by the flares and openings. Step 3. The paint, where personality starts. Now we get to the part where your Corvette stops being just a Corvette and starts becoming your Corvette. In the paint shop, each panel goes through a multi-stage process: cleaning, priming, base coat, and clear coat. Dust control is critical. A speck in the wrong place could show up like a flaw on a $100,000 car, so the environment is tightly managed, and workers suit up like they're in a lab. Colors like torch red or rapid blue have become part of Corvette's identity, and at Bowling Green, those bold options are constantly moving down the line. Every panel is sprayed and then cured, building up a deep, glossy finish that's designed to pop under sunlight and hold up to years of real-world abuse. Because the panels are painted off the car, the plant can protect them during the rest of the build. They'll be installed later once most of the messy and risky work under the skin is finished. It's a small but smart detail that helps keep those flawless paint jobs flawless. Step 4. The heart, engine, and drivetrain. While the body is getting its color, something much more intense is happening elsewhere. The powertrain is being prepared. For the C8 Stingray, that means the LT2 V8, a naturally aspirated 6.2-liter engine that can put out up to around 495 horsepower when properly configured. On the Z06 side of things, the LT6 is an exotic flat-plane crank V8 that revs to the stratosphere and delivers serious track performance. These engines are part of what makes Bowling Green feel more like a supercar factory than a typical mass-market plant. The Corvette's dual-clutch transmission, suspension components, and braking systems are also prepared and staged to meet the chassis at just the right moment. High-performance brakes, think large rotors and multi-piston calipers, and sophisticated suspension setups are not afterthoughts. They're baked into the assembly process so everything lines up with minimal tolerance. Each major component passes through multiple quality checks. It's not unusual for high-value parts like engines and gearboxes to go through separate test cycles before they ever touch a chassis. When a Corvette rolls off the line with your name on the build sheet, that engine has already proven itself before it ever fires up in the car. Step 5. Trim and chassis, the human touch. Move further into the plant and you get to one of the most fascinating areas for visitors: trim and chassis. Here you see the balance between robotics and human craftsmanship. Robots are great for repeatable tasks and heavy lifting, but the Corvette's interior and detailed assembly still rely heavily on skilled workers. The dashboard, wiring harnesses, sound insulation, carpets, seats, and countless brackets and fasteners are added by people who've done this for years, often decades. This is where the feel of the car is defined: the alignment of a panel gap, the way a door closes, the stitching on a steering wheel. All of that gets decided in trim. Many of the workers have personal pride tied to these cars. Some are enthusiasts themselves, and they know owners will obsessively inspect this interior as soon as they take delivery. On the chassis side, suspension components are bolted up, brake lines are routed, cooling systems are installed, and the car's underbody begins to look track-ready. This is also where the Corvette's performance options get translated into hardware. Z51 package components, upgraded cooling, specialized tires. All of it is installed based on the car's build sheet. Step 6. Marriage. When it becomes a Corvette, then comes one of the most dramatic moments on the line: marriage. On one side, you have the nearly complete chassis with the engine, transmission, suspension, and exhaust all ready to go. On the other side, you have the painted body shell waiting to drop down. At the marriage station, the two are brought together in a carefully choreographed move. The body is lowered onto the rolling chassis while workers and machines guide everything into alignment. Mounting points, wiring connections, fluid lines, and fasteners all have to land exactly where they're supposed to. It's not just one piece being set onto another, it's a multi-layered assembly coming together with millimeter-level precision. Once the bolts are tightened and the connections made, what you see in front of you isn't just a frame or a shell anymore. It looks like a nearly complete Corvette. Stance, proportions, and presence all there. Inside the plant, people literally refer to the overall process as a layered build because each sub-assembly line feeds into this moment where everything merges. If you ever take the factory tour, this is one of the scenes that sticks with you. You're watching the car be born in real time. Step 7. First start and final assembly. After marriage, the car heads into final assembly and testing. This is where details matter more than ever. Workers install wheels and tires, align body panels, fit exterior glass, and add final trim pieces. Inside, electronics are connected and tested, software is flashed, and systems like infotainment, climate control, and driver assistance are verified. Then comes a moment every enthusiast would kill to witness: first start. At this stage, the Corvette's engine is fired up on the line for the first time. Technicians listen for strange noises, check for leaks, watch gauges, and verify that the car is behaving exactly how it should. It's both a ritual and a test. This isn't just about noise, it's about confirming the entire build came together correctly. From there, the Corvette moves through additional checks. Alignment, brake function, lighting, and electrical systems all get inspected. On many modern lines, cars also run on rollers or short test tracks to verify drivability, though the details vary depending on configuration and production schedules. Only after the car passes each step is it allowed to roll off the end of the line under its own power. When it finally reaches the end, there's a real sense of ceremony. Workers often watch as each new Corvette drives off the line for the first time, knowing it's headed for a dealer, a museum delivery, or maybe even straight to a racetrack, the people behind the machines. We've talked a lot about robots, tooling, and processes, but the spirit of Bowling Green lives in the people who build these cars. Around 800 production workers, represented by UAW Local 2164, help assemble Corvettes on a typical one-shift, 8-hour Monday through Friday schedule. Many of them have been there long enough to have built multiple generations of Corvettes, watching the car evolve from front-engine V8 bruiser to mid-engine supercar. The pride is real. The plant marked 40 years in Bowling Green, with celebrations recognizing how far the Corvette and its builders have come, and how tightly the car's identity is tied to this Kentucky town. Workers know they're not just building transportation, they're building something owners will name, photograph, race, and polish for years. That human factor shows up in small touches: the care taken with interior materials, the attention to panel fit, the way issues are flagged and fixed rather than ignored. Bowling Green isn't just turning out units, it's turning out future collectibles, track weapons, and dream cars. A tourist attraction built around a production line. Here's how you know this plant is different. It's not just a workplace, it's a destination. Every year, tens of thousands of visitors walk through Bowling Green Assembly on guided tours, covering roughly a 1-mile route through the heart of the factory. You can watch robots weld the steel and aluminum structure, see workers in trim and chassis install systems, and then witness the marriage point where the body and chassis come together. Tours are organized and scheduled in advance, and they typically run on weekdays when the line is in motion. Guides explain each stage of the process, from bare frame to final drive-off, and the facility is set up to be accessible. including for visitors with mobility challenges. You're not just peeking through a window, you're walking the same floor where Corvettes are being built in real time. The plant sits close to the National Corvette Museum and the nearby Motorsports Park, making Bowling Green a kind of Corvette campus. You can see the history, watch the assembly, and then go drive or watch cars being pushed to their limits. Not a bad weekend for a Corvette fan. Evolution, from front-engine classic to mid-engine marvel. Bowling Green has seen the Corvette reinvent itself more than once. When production moved from St. Louis in 1981, the plant symbolized a fresh start. More space, better equipment, and a dedicated Corvette-only facility. Over the years, it's been upgraded and re-engineered repeatedly to handle the demands of each new generation. The launch of the C8 in 2020, though, was on another level. Moving to a mid-engine layout required rethinking not just the car, but the entire build process. The chassis structure changed, the cooling systems moved, the drivetrain shifted, and new tooling was installed to handle the different geometry and assembly sequence. Bowling Green underwent extensive retooling, added new manufacturing technology, and trained workers on updated techniques to build the C8 lineup: Stingray, Z06, and E-Ray. That's a lot of variation for a single model plant, but it reflects where Corvette is now. A full performance family, not just one car with a couple of options. Even with all that modernization, the core idea hasn't changed. This is still the place where America's sports car is built by American workers in an American town. Bowling Green's place in Corvette culture. The factory isn't just a box that cars pass through, it's part of the Corvette mythos. When Corvette owners talk about their cars, they often mention Bowling Green, like it's a birthplace, not just a plant. The town's economy and identity are tied deeply to the brand, and events, museum gatherings, and track days at the Motorsports Park all revolve around that connection. GM leans into that too. Special edition Corvettes, museum deliveries, and factory tours all add layers of meaning to owning one of these cars. It's not just "I bought a Corvette," it's "I watched my Corvette being built," or "I picked it up right across the street from where it was born." By concentrating all Corvette production in one plant, Chevrolet also keeps quality, innovation, and tradition tightly under control. When something changes in the Corvette world, new engine, new tech, new performance package, Bowling Green is the battlefield where it gets tested, refined, and ultimately put into production. Your Corvette's 36-hour origin story. So if you ever find yourself behind the wheel of a new C8, whether it's a Stingray, a fire-breathing Z06, or an electrified E-Ray, remember what happened before that first drive. In roughly a day and a half, an army of robots and about 1,000 skilled people took an aluminum skeleton, boxes of parts, a tank of paint, and a massive V8 and turned them into a fully realized Corvette. Along the way, your car experienced robotic welding in the body shop to create a rigid aluminum chassis, precision assembly of composite body panels into a body in white, multi-stage paint with each panel cured for a deep, show car-worthy finish, installation of a high-performance V8, dual-clutch transmission, and advanced suspension, the dramatic marriage where the body drops onto the chassis, first start, where that engine fired to life for the very first time inside the plant, final inspections and roll-off as workers watched another Corvette leave the only home the car has had for more than 4 decades. All of it happened at one address in Kentucky, at a plant that's seen Corvette go from chrome-bumpered classic to mid-engine supercar. Now it's your turn. If you could spec your dream Corvette to watch it being built in Bowling Green, what would you order? Color, trim, Stingray, Z06, or E-Ray? Tell me your build in the comments. Hit like if you'd walk that 1-mile factory tour tomorrow. Share this with the biggest Corvette fan you know, and subscribe for more deep dives inside the places where America's most legendary machines are born.